Okay, Ashley, hi. This is so nice to have you on this program. I know you from coaching and I know you as a Josephite,
Yeah.
and now I know you as a mind talk, exponent. And I'm going to get into your mind, Ashley, if you don't mind.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Okay, the
Yeah,
purpose
let's get
of
into it.
Mind Talks, as Ashley, is basically to get into the mind of people who are either successful or they're leaders.
Right.
I'm only focusing on these two categories of people, successful people and leaders. And I'm assuming you're coming under the successful category and you will soon be a leader.
Oh, I'd like to think so, man. I'd like to think so as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
So I'm so happy to have you on this program. And as a youngster who has made it very, very nicely in the corporate world, created your own corporate structure, your own company,
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's really fabulous already.
Yeah.
So, actually, I just wanted to find out from you what made you take this thing. I understood from the beginning, earlier talks that you were not wanting to go the regular route in terms of
Yeah. 100%.
education and what has to be done.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
went
man.
into video
So,
editing, started your own company. Just take it off from there, Ashley. Tell us
all right. Sure.
what's your
Yeah.
story.
So, initially, I had the idea of, working at an MNC. That was the idea that I had. I thought, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work at an MNC. I'm going to, get in the start, and I'm going to slowly, climb the whole corporate ladder, and then maybe in 15, 20 years, I'll be this, huge successful accountant. Right? That was the whole idea. But then I soon realized that, I had this idea initially. I thought it was all about give and take, right? So, for example, if you want to, let's say, lose weight, you are not going to eat, you're not going to eat of 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 rice. You're not going to have ice cream. You're not going to have all of that. You're not going to. It's almost like you're going to sacrifice your happiness, and in
Right.
exchange for that, you're going to get an awesome physique. You're going to get a six pack, abs, all of that good stuff, right?
Hmm.
So I thought that in the working world, again, this is me at the age of 16 to 18. Okay, so I thought that if I were to do something that I really enjoyed, I wasn't going to make a lot, right? But if I did something that I didn't like, I could make a lot, right? It's all about sacrifice. So if I'm going to sacrifice my happiness, I'll make a lot of money. And for me, that was okay. I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to enjoy my life, but at the end, after I'm coming back from my office, I'll be in my fancy car and I'll be wearing my awesome suit and all of that stuff.
Right.
And then uh, I soon realized that that whole idea was incredibly flawed. In fact, it was actually the inverse. If you wanted to be successful, you would have to do something that you actually enjoyed. And like the moment I understood it, it was almost like, it was like or the or Apple falling on falling on Isaac Newton's head. I was like, oh wow, like this whole idea that it's completely flawed. And so the idea, and so after that, I said, you know what, I should probably look at individuals I know who are happy and who are successful, and I should kind of ask them what was their whole approach, because they've already achieved that, right?
Right.
So I ended up looking at a lot of successful people. I realized almost every one of them were either entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs. Okay.
Hmm.
And then I started asking these guys, and I soon realized that there was no way I could be an entrepreneur at EY or APMG or any of those organizations. So the path that I had opted for myself was itself a wrong path. Also, I wasn't in the exams. I was doing very badly. So even if that was
Oh,
the right
wow.
path,
You didn't tell me that earlier.
I would not have become successful in that space. I want to put that out.
Hmm.
So I didn't really have an option at that point. So I said, you know what? I said, okay, Ashley, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna do something that I love, and I'm gonna just experiment, because I'm not that old. I'm 20 years at that point, and I just said, let me just experiment. So I
Awesome.
started editing videos for people in India. I soon realized that uh, in India, ironically, artists aren't appreciated a lot, which is again ironic, because India was the hub for arts for all these years,
That's
right?
true. That's right.
And artists aren't appreciated. If your audience here, if anyone's a photographer or a videographer, they edit videos, they do logos. I think they know exactly what I'm talking about, right?
That's true.
If you approach someone and say, hey, I'll make this logo for you, they're going to say, oh, it's just a small thing, I'm going to pay you $100, something like that. When in reality, what they're doing is they're putting their entire company's identity in this very small space. Like they don't understand that. We almost have to explain it. And this of course is not every Indian, obviously, but I noticed with my experience that the overwhelming majority of the people that I was working with had that type of mentality where they
Yes, true.
didn't respect artists. And so I said, I'm gonna have to either go back and do what I hate doing, which I'm not gonna do, or I'm gonna have to find a way out. And I realized that we have the internet, so I don't really have to be in the United States to work with someone in the United States. I don't have to be in Australia to work with someone in
That's brilliant.
Australia, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so what I did was I went online and I actually found this guy who was in online, like he was in the whole online make money world where he would reach out to people halfway across the world, approach them and say, hey, let's do XYZ, and he would earn money out of that. So I asked him for his help. I asked a lot of people for their help. I watched a lot of videos online. I remember, I think late 2017 is when I had this idea. From I would say from maybe November of 2017 all the way to April of 2018, it was me just watching videos online on how to do this whole thing. It was me literally spending 6 hours a day, and my whole schedule was I would come back from college sometime in the afternoon, and I would sleep in the afternoon, and then I would wake up and then I would just watch these videos until 2 a.m. And when my eyes would start hurting, I would actually go to bed. And then I would wake up in 4 hours, I would attend college, and the whole thing went on again and again. And I soon realized that I needed to approach these people abroad. And I first reached out to this one guy and I said, hey, let me edit your videos, and if it's a good edit, you pay me. If it isn't, you don't pay me anything. And so at
Wow.
that point, it was like, he didn't have anything to lose at that point. He said,
Yeah.
okay, sure, yeah, let's do this. And then I edited it. He thought it was amazing. Then he gave me his connections who were interested, and next thing you know, I'm working. This is probably September of 2018, September, October, November. I'm working 12 hours a day every single day. Ian, this is Saturdays, these are
Wow.
Sundays,
Awesome.
Christmas, New Year's, every day. I'm just working, and for the first time, I'm actually enjoying this, right? So it's almost like the adrenaline is just pushing me, and I'm completely okay with overworking. I don't have any issues. But so from September to I think of Feb, so September of 2018 to the next year was Feb,
Yeah.
I was in this. I was just working every single day, but then I soon realized that this idea, I mean, like working every day, it's going to cause burnout, right? It's going to cause burnout, and I'm overworking myself. So I soon realized that I have to employ someone, and I was at a point where I could employ someone. So I hired my first employee in May. He's still working with me even now. In fact, I think this is going to be edited by him.
Wow.
So I first hired Harish at I would say around May of 2018. So when he came on, it was almost like I had all this work that he was now able to work on, and now I was able to actually focus on the business instead of focusing in the business. And
Wonderful.
I
Hmm.
think that's a huge thing for most entrepreneurs. They're working in the business, they're an employee of the business, when they should realize that they should hire and they should then delegate their things. So when I first had my employee, I was huge. I then started my other company, Ash Podcasts, which I'm still growing now. And I soon hired my next employee and my next one, and I had a bunch of interns. And fast forward to 2020, towards the end of it now, on this interview, I now have around 4 to 5 different ventures that I'm working on. I have around, I would say, 20 full-time slash part-time employees. Most of them are part-time, though. I want to put that out there. And yeah, man, that's my whole story. Long story long. Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So I'm glad that you took that leap of faith, Ashley, and I'm glad that you made it work for you.
Yeah.
So what was the main the point that you have to overcome to make success happen?
The adversity, I would say I was attempting things every single day, and I was constantly failing at them. Okay, because again, I was just starting off, right? I didn't know about entrepreneurship as much, so I'm just like I can't even remember the number of things I tried. I I was making logos, I was doing ads, I was doing marketing, I was doing sales for people. I was doing everything that I could, and I was constantly failing at it, but I was never giving up. And I didn't even feel bad about failing, because for me this was like, okay, cool, I'll just do something else. I always had that in my head, and if you would have asked me at that point, are you failing, I would have said, no, I don't think I'm failing. I'm just attempting a bunch of things.
Something new. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's the biggest point of adversity that I had to overcome. Is I was constantly attempting different things, and I was constantly failing at them, but I was completely okay with it, because I understood, even at that point, I understood that it's okay to fail. I mean, I'm anyway failing my exams, right? I might as well fail at this business thing as well, and actually at some point in the future actually have some success with it, which is exactly what happened. And for me, another point of adversity for me was I had to explain to my parents this whole thing. And when I explained this to my friends, when I explained the idea that, again, I'm working with people abroad, how the whole thing works, how the video editing works, it's hard for my own friends to understand. So you can understand how it is for someone a lot older to understand. So for me, another point of adversity was explaining this to my parents. And luckily, I didn't take any investment on board. I didn't have anyone fund me. I didn't use anyone's connection. This was completely on my own. So what I had this idea where I was like, I was going to go to my parents. And okay, so let me just explain the whole thing. So I had a friend of mine who used to work for Goldman Sachs. In fact, he still works there. So I asked him, dude, how much are you going to make when you start earning? I mean, when you start working there? And he said 36 or 38, he said. So I had in my head that if I can make more than that in my first month, then I can go to my parents and say, hey, I've started this whole business. This is how much I've made, and I have made more than I would have earned in Goldman Sachs.
Yes.
Now between you and me, I wouldn't have gotten into Goldman Sachs. I didn't have the rates for it, but I had the idea that if I can explain to them that, hey, there's this company Goldman Sachs that pays around 36, and I made more than that in my first month, no investment, no connections, then
That's
they would
awesome.
understand, right? And I was talking to another aspiring entrepreneur of my who I know, and he was like, bro, my parents don't understand only. And I'm like, dude, they're not gonna understand. They're like, you have to understand that they're significantly older than you. They are not, they just don't know what you know. So instead of explaining to them this idea in your head, I would suggest actually attempt it and make money, and then you can show them the money, because I don't care how old they are, they'll understand that. So
Show
in
them
my
the money. I think that's the key.
yeah, that's the key, man. If you're
That's the
gonna
key.
if you're gonna show them an idea, I mean, sure, you can do that. And if your parents are very progressive, they may get it. But I would suggest actually attempting it, you know, make the money and then show them the money, and then they'll understand,
That's
which is exactly what I did. And that was another huge point of adversity, like explaining this whole thing to my parents, getting them to understand it. But when I actually showed them, hey, this is how much I earned in my first month, and it's significantly higher than what I would make at this other huge MNC, at point they can't really say no to me at that point.
they can't say no.
How can you say no at that point?
No, no. Money talks. Money
Money
talk. Money
talks, man.
always
Money
talks. Yeah.
talks. Yeah.
Awesome. So actually, now let me ask you one thing. Did you make some sort of a plan to reach here, or did you do it step by step, and it just fell in place like an organic growth process? What happened?
Okay. So the idea initially was, I'm just going to attempt all these things. If it's going to work, it's going to work. That was the idea. And once it started working, I realized, okay, cool. Now I need to have some sort of a blueprint, some sort of a game plan. And here's where mentors come into the picture, because you can either attempt and you can fail and you can learn from your failures, or you can talk to someone significantly older than you, more experienced than you, and he or she will give you the lessons that they learned from their own failures, right? So what I did was I reached out to this one guy who I knew. I didn't know him. I just reached out to him, and then I became like, I just helped him out in some way. And he at that point was like, okay, this kid's helping me out. All he wants is some advice. Let me just give him some advice. And he then gave me the blueprint to actually succeed. He then told me, okay, dude, you need employees, you need to do this, you need to do this other thing, because again, he was making around 800,000 a year, uh, or dollars, of course. and he's just like 26 or something. And I remember I was on a call with him, and I was just, small talk. I was just like, hey man, how was your day, kind of stuff. And he was like, oh, okay, I woke up at like around 5, I meditated, I then went for a walk, and I then went for a swim, I worked out, I ate at this other place. And I'm like, this guy's making 800,000, and we're halfway through the day and he hasn't worked at all. And then I asked him, okay, cool, so now you're going to start working, right? And he was like, no, I don't think so. I think I'm going to go to my friend's house, and then I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to read this book. And I'm like, how does this guy make this much? And he's not even working. I'm here working every single hour that I'm awake, and I'm not even making a fraction of this guy. Like, how does this work? And then I actually asked him that. I was like, dude, how are you making so much then? And he was like, after a point when you have enough employees, your work isn't to work. Your work is to just delegate, innovate, and come up with the ideas and give them the direction. He said, or the captain of the ship, right? You're not going to then go, and you're not going to give the direction and go and pull down the sails and all of that. You're not going to do all. You're just going to give them the command, and you want them to execute on it. And so when you ask the blueprint, for me, it was just asking others for what their blueprint was. And it was looking at his blueprint and her blueprint and his blueprint, and seeing which one made the most sense for me at my point, and actually executing on that.
That's brilliant. That's totally brilliant. So, actually, right from the first time I met you, one thing that struck me was there's this hunger inside of you
Yeah.
that you want to learn more. I mean, you signed up for coaching in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I
even
was
though it
just
was
like, wow, this guy's a
expensive, and
young chap.
yeah, I
He
just was
couldn't
like,
pay a lot of money for coaching,
yeah.
and he just took the decision just like that. So, just walk me through that. What was going on through your mind, and why did you just jump
Just
into
go
it?
with it. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so it's all about hindsight. Like a lot of people will. Okay. So I explained to my friends that, hey guys, I'm working with Ian. This is how much I'm paying him. And it's a lot, right? This is how much I'm paying him. And they were like, bro, why are you paying him so much money? Like, what's wrong with you, dude? And all of that. And I'm like, and this is how I explain it to them. And I think your audience is going to gain a lot from it. If you were to put, let's say, a significant amount of money, or any amount of money, and you were to invest it in the markets, okay? If you were to get 20% in a year, I would consider that as incredibly
Good return.
successful. That's awesome returns, okay? So if you were to get that much, I would say if you invest the same amount in yourself, you will get 200% returns. And that also won't even be the actual
Yeah,
return.
it's
You'll
only
get
a
way more
fraction.
than that. It's a
Yeah,
fraction of that. So
yeah,
when I looked at you, and when you said this is how much you have to invest, I didn't even hesitate. I'm sure, as you remember, I think I was sitting opposite you, exactly
yeah.
where
Five
you're sitting.
minutes to take the
Exact.
decision, and I was thinking
I'm
like,
like,
this
okay,
is a
cool.
smart guy.
I was like, okay, cool, and boom, I immediately executed on it, because I knew that the amount that I was going to give you was going to give me a significant ROI, an ROI way more than an FD would, or a RD would, or a whatever an SIP would. I knew that at that point, and I think that's something a lot of people need to understand, because I was, I'm sure you've read Principles, right? By
Yes,
it,
Ray
Dalio.
Dalio.
Awesome book, awesome book. So I one of my of read that it's on Amazon, and it's an awesome book. And he said, how much is it? I said it's eight. I said 800 or something. He said 800, bro. I don't know about 800. And I'm like, dude, you'll spend 1,500 out with your of friends, and what's the ROI on that? If you're spending 800 on a book, that's nothing, man. The ROI is insane, especially considering Principles is such a good book. 800
Good.
is 800. I mean, even if it was 8,000, I wouldn't consider it a lot. Yeah. So that's the whole thing. Okay, so when you ask me about what's the reason why I'm so hungry, it's that I've always been like this. I've always been curious. I've always, if I have an option to watch a documentary or a TV show, I'll always go the documentary route. I always like learning acts and all of that. And even in the even in college, I was in the quiz team and all of that, because I was always interested in all of this kind of stuff. So I'm not really sure how to explain that to your audience. I just was like that. I was on like that. I'm not sure if that's something you can instill in yourself. I'm not sure if you can pick up a book and then get curious about things. I don't know, but that's just how I always was. I always wanted to like know more, but I hated studying in
Structured
school.
learning.
Yeah,
Structured
school.
learning.
Yeah,
You're
I
learning
hated it.
anyway. Ashley,
Yeah,
I want to
exactly.
compliment you. You're learning all the time.
Yeah,
I
Exactly,
also
exactly.
want to ask, I want you to explain one more thing. There's a high risk factor when you're talking about, I'm getting my clients from the US, and now I understand most of your clients are in the US because in India, they're not going to pay you this kind of
Of
money.
course. Yeah.
So, how did you make that switch that, I mean, I understood that they were not paying you much in India because
Of
they don't
course.
treat artists well.
Yeah.
But how did you make that big leap of faith? And, you have this little bit of a stutter, and, that must have been also holding you back.
It was, man. It was huge. So the idea, okay, so initially I still remember approaching the first guy I was interested in working with, and he said, so all these other guys, I would approach them and he would do the whole thing on email. They would just say, okay, cool, this is awesome. An email, anyone could type. Of course, emailing isn't only that. You need to approach them in a way. Like, for example, if I was approaching you, Ian, I wouldn't just say, hey, Ian, I'll do X, Y, Z for you. I would say, who's this guy, Ian? So I would go on your website, I would attend your events, and then I would say, Ian, and then I would approach you and I would actually mention that I'm at your event. I would structure it in all these ways. So it isn't all that, but I still remember the first person who wanted to speak to me on an actual Zoom call. This is earlier when hardly anyone had Zoom, so I had to install it for the first time, and this is 2018, right? So I remember on the call, I think 2019, but anyway, I remember on the call, I was so nervous in my head. I was like, what if I stutter and then he doesn't want to work with me, and then so I was on the call. I stuttered more than I ever have because I was so nervous. But I still kept trying though. I didn't just stop. I remember I did a screenshot. You have a screenshot option. I had a screenshot on and I was typing on my thing what I wanted to say. Like I was like, I'm in this. I'm going to attempt at this. And I think there's a huge part of it is failing in school almost got me to the point where I wasn't afraid of failure anymore. It almost
Wow.
was like that. I think it was that because anyone else, I feel in that situation again, I couldn't string two sentences together. I couldn't string one sentence together. Actually, it was that bad. And yeah, but I was just pushing through. At the end of it, he said, okay, cool, yeah, it sounds good. And he too, I don't think he understood a lot through the call. And he said, just email me everything. I said, yeah, cool, I'll do the email. And then on the next call, I started as well, but I didn't start as much. And slowly things started improving, and slowly I understood, because at that point I was like, I'm this dude halfway across the world. I don't have much experience. This other guy who I'm working with is whatever, 15 20 years of experience, super successful guy, has this, huge house and these huge awesome cars. Like I had that inferiority thing, but then I realized that he's just a human being. I'm also one. Let me
Wow.
just speak to the guy, and soon I started improving, and soon I wouldn't stutter on my calls. And even if I would, it just wouldn't affect me as much. I would just keep going with it. And I would say that's how I really got over it. I just kept doing it, and I kept failing at it, and I was completely okay with failing at it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the biggest lesson you learned in life?
Biggest lesson, I've learned so many, man. Hard to give you one, but let me make an attempt. Biggest lesson I have learned in life is not giving up, is just keep trying at it, and always, 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 I would suggest, don't do what everyone else is doing. Okay. If conventional wisdom was right, then everyone would be successful. But we
You're right.
don't see that, of course. We don't see that, right? How many people are really successful, who are really happy, who really have amazing relationships, and who are making good money? And like, I'm saying everything because you will find some with a lot of money, but the wife hates them and they're living this horrible life. So I'm talking about someone who has it all. You won't find a lot of them. Okay. And every person that you find, you'll see that they've always had an unorthodox approach to, like, with things. Even you, for example, like your whole thing about this coaching and stuff like that, how many other people are doing things the way you do it, right? I don't think there are that many. So that's the main lesson. Don't do what everyone else is doing. Also, like, don't give up. Just keep attempting things, like keep trying things. Reach out to people who are already successful and just ask them, how did you do it? Like, it's so simple. Of course, when I say reach out, don't just reach out to them and ask them, because they'll have their own things and they won't know who you are, and then they're not gonna spend an hour with you, right? but if you were to give them something, so what I do, for example, is I reach out to people and I give them, I'll see their website and I'll say, okay, his website isn't the best. So what I'll do is I'll get one of my employees, and if you don't have an employee, you can make a website on your own. It's not even so hard. Squarespace, all these other things that are out there. So I would suggest taking a website for someone and just giving it to them and saying, hey, I just had a look at your website. I don't think it's at your level. And so what I did was I made a website. If you want any edits, let me know. I'm not asking you for anything. I don't want anything for this in exchange. I just want to give this to you. If you do something like that,
Brilliant.
again, making a website, it will take you like a few hours maybe. Again, this isn't like, I'm not asking you to make Facebook or to make Amazon. I'm talking about like a simple website, right? It won't take too long. And if you can just give, they will then return it, and even if they don't return it, someone else will return it. It's the karmic thing, right? If you do something good for someone else will do it to you. It will come back. So yeah, you just have to do that.
Oh man, I think the spiritual side of you come out, Ashley. This is
Yeah,
so.
man, I'm getting into it. I'm reading all these books and stuff after your recommendations. Meditating a lot more than I used to. Almost every day I'm
That's
spending
the
an
way you
hour
do your
meditating.
work.
Yeah,
In
this is
fact, I
big.
remember some of our coaching sessions. Used to go quite deep.
Yeah,
I'm saying, here's this young guy. He's speaking like a much older person.
yeah,
So you evolved fast, and so I want to call this out, Ashley, and I want
yeah,
to call this out for the benefit of all those there who are thinking, academics determine who you're going to become,
yeah.
and I'm sorry, I'm against that view. I,
Oh,
I
same,
think
man. Same.
smartness determines where you're going to go.
Exactly. Yeah.
A
I
lot of
mean,
people who were very smart in school didn't make it too big otherwise, and
right.
the guys who did the musti, threw the chalk on the teacher,
Yeah, that's me.
those
That's
are
me.
the guys who really made it.
Exactly. Yeah, man. It's not about academic. Anyone who thinks that I can give you my or report card, I can show you that academics really like it's incredibly irrelevant. I remember. I think last week I was just hanging out with all my friends, and they all did significantly better than me academically. But when it comes to when it comes to the real world, I'm significantly ahead of them. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that because that's how flawed our school system is. That's how flawed a college system is. Like half the things they teach you isn't even relevant in the real world. They don't
That's
teach
true.
you. They don't teach you how to learn. They don't teach you how to read. They don't teach you, spirituality
How
or
to take risk.
how to take risk, public speaking, soft skills, networking. They don't teach you any of that stuff. Instead, they teach you the Pythagoras theorem and all these other things that aren't
Not
really
relevant
used.
in a really big world. Yes.
Exactly,
A
exactly,
lot of it
exactly.
you can pick up on the net. I mean, look at it
Yeah,
today.
exactly. All these things are available on the internet. In
Google
fact, in
search, you
fact,
can get so much of learning. And a lot of your learning has come off the net.
I'd say everything, man. I'd say I'd say whatever I've learned is off the internet, and I haven't paid anything. I have paid for a few courses. I paid a significant amount for a few. Of course, I paid for your thing as well. But I only started paying once I started earning money myself. I want to put that out there. The
Yeah, no, I think
upfront investment was almost nothing. I just learned everything for free on YouTube.
no, that's brilliant. Yeah. So actually, I want to call it out. Like, the first time I met you, I was thinking, here's this such a smart guy. So I want to call that out. I want to call that by read people. So for me, the first thing that hit me was you're really smart guy. And
Okay.
you read somebody to mentor you, channel you a little bit.
Yeah.
You still need to keep that unbridled, the wide scape.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a little bit of channeling here and there.
Right. 100%.
I used to love our discussions and how deep you used to go on them.
Yeah.
Really nice. So if there's something that a youngster today should not do,
Should
Ashley,
not do.
what would that
Okay.
be?
Should not do. Don't do the things that you don't enjoy. Like if your mom's telling you to do engineering, if your dad's telling you to become a doctor and you have no interest in it, don't do it. And that's going to be, and I don't want you to have a huge fight with the parents and then say, Ashley said so. Ashley asked me to do this. But do things that you actually love. There's so many opportunities right now. I know photographers who make significantly more than doctors. I know video editors. I know graphic designers. I know people who you wouldn't consider are in a lucrative position. Like I don't know of any Indian mom or dad who says, my son's a graphic designer with, a lot of happiness, or at least as much happiness as someone else would say if their kid's a doctor, right? I don't see that. But if you look at how much you can make, and if you look at the potential and the growth potential and all these other things, the arts field, which everyone looked at arts like, if you get under 60%, you should do arts, kind of that mentality. The arts field is incredibly, it's huge. I mean, you can make so much in it. I know so many guys who are making way more than your lawyers, your CAs, your doctors, all those guys. So my advice for someone, something not to do: don't do the thing you don't like. Do the thing you enjoy. And when you do the thing that you enjoy, you need to also look at money. You can't just be, I love singing. Well, if you're going to, you can't sing if you're hungry, right? I mean, if you have no food to eat, like, you won't be able to sing for long. So you need to look at other singers, other people in your industry who have become successful, and you need to either get tutelage from them, or you need to understand how they got to where they are. Okay, because I'm going to be honest with you, video editors don't make a lot of money, but there are a few, including myself, who make significantly more than anyone in that industry. And if you were to ask me how to do that, I could explain that to you. If you were to ask some of these photographers who are just not even that old, who are making a truckload, go and ask them. And again, when I said ask them, don't just go and ask them, you want to give them something, right? So again, I just explained the whole website thing. You can make something else for them. You can say, I'll intern for you for a month for free. I'll work for you for 6 hours a day, free. Don't have to pay me anything. All I want from you is your advice at the end of it. I don't see a lot of people who would say no to that. you know so that's what I would suggest. Yeah.
Wow. You're such a brilliant guy, Ashley, and I want
Thanks,
to
man. You're making me blush now.
I really want to call it out publicly because this is really what the world is about.
Yeah.
It's not about traditional academics anymore.
Yeah. It's
In
not.
fact, I'm saying I even talked to the assistant chancellor of the Bangalore University, and he was saying our people are not getting jobs again. So what do we do?
Yeah,
So you're
exactly.
giving them crap which was relevant 30 years ago.
Exactly, man. It's so irrelevant. I remember in my entrepreneurship, I had an entrepreneurship class. That's the only class where I got okay marks. And when I say okay, I got like 50 on 100. Okay, so that's okay for me. Entrepreneurship, and I remember the things we studied was so irrelevant, was so outdated, because I can't speak about accounts because I don't know anything, right? I have an accountant who has that for me. I don't know anything about accounts. I don't know anything about taxation, but I can speak about entrepreneurship. And I saw the things that they were teaching in our college. Again, our college is considered what India is like sixth or seventh best, something like that. And it was so irrelevant. It was
Outdated.
outdated. Yeah, it was so outdated. And even if it wasn't outdated, it was something someone could just go on Google and just look up. You shouldn't be teaching that. What if I was in charge of it, what I would do is I would get a venture capitalist, and Angular, so everywhere you'll find a VC. I would get a VC to come to the college and spend an hour talking about his life and how he determines who the right entrepreneur is. Something that's not available on the internet. And that's hard because a lot of things are available on the internet. And you will soon see colleges, I would say, getting slightly outdated now, because it just makes no sense to pay more and receive a very low quality education
Less
when
from
you
it.
could spend nothing and receive a high quality education online. I think we're maybe not now, but maybe by 2025, 2030, I think you will see a lot of people educating themselves on the internet for free. And there are paid options as well, and they're awesome too. I do that as well. I'm just saying, you can just do all this for free. And yeah, if I was in charge, I would actually get people who have been in the dirt, who have actually put in the work. Because again, uh, or or I respect teachers, but if you are going to teach someone about, let's say, entrepreneurship, you need to be an entrepreneur yourself. Like, I can't teach you about fitness and be obese, right? I can't come to you and say, hey, I'm going to give you like this six-pack abs and you're going to have these amazing arms, and then you look at me and I'm this big fat sack of potatoes. It's not going to work, right? So you want someone who has been in there. Again, I have nothing against teachers. I think they're amazing. I think they should for sure stick with theory, but we should have an alternate R of someone who has been in the game, who's going to come, maybe an accountant who's going to come and talk about the mistakes that most people make when they incorporate a company. Maybe a lawyer that talks about NDAs and how they work. Maybe someone else, all these actual experts, actual people who have been there, who can come in and speak about it. I
Very
think that's
important.
incredibly effective. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's very important to do that. So, Ashley, what do we see? What's next for Ashley Saldanha?
Wow, so many things, man. 2020 for me, 2020 was an amazing year, and I find that hard to say because I know people who have lost loved ones, whose businesses have gone under, thanks to what's happening. But for me, it was an amazing year. I started 2020 optimistic. Halfway through it with the lockdown, I got even more optimistic because everything was going online. That's exactly where I am. I make content and all of that, so all that just went up for me. So for me, it was an amazing year. Next year, I hope, I wish Ray is going to be even more amazing. Maybe this is happening towards the end of 2020. Maybe towards the end of 2021, I can come and I can give a recap and say, hey, I made this much, or hey, I lost this much. We don't know. We'll see. But I think next year I used to edit videos for people on YouTube, and now I have understood the business so well that I plan on starting my own platform exactly like that. I'm going to be making my own videos. I've actually hired a voiceover artist. I've hired script writers. I've hired editors. Completely automated. I'm not going to be in it. It's going to be completely automated, and that's something that I'm working on. I think next year it's going to be huge for that, especially considering what's going on with everyone consuming more online content. I think that's just going up, and I want to ride that wave. Yeah, that's me on next year, man.
The way I've seen you grow, Ashley, I'm saying, I know when you put your mind to something, it'll just happen.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
And when you feel you need the help, you always reach out and you do that so beautifully.
of course, man.
I
Yeah,
think if you ask me, the part of your success has been that ability to reach out and ask for help.
yeah,
That's one place a lot of people fail. They try to do it again and a second time and a third time. And by the time you figure it out, you're already tired and
you're
you
right.
already lost your confidence.
Yeah. Asking, asking, if your audience is listening with this and they're, yeah, asking sounds pretty simple. Let's go someone ask someone for help. It's not like that. You don't just go and ask someone. I would say you first give something. Again, this
Just
comes
to
back to
feel
the
it in.
website thing that I spoke about and all the other things. Like if you give something, they feel that they owe you something, even though they don't, because you just gave to them and they didn't even ask you for it. But that's what I would suggest. Like I was talking to this huge VC that I know, and how I reached out to him was I was on his Instagram. So I was consuming one of his podcasts, and he spoke about how his birthday is in the next 2 days, and I was watching this thing the next 2 days. Yeah, so it was his birthday on that day. So I went on his Instagram, said, "Hey, happy birthday," something. Then he says, "Yeah, cool." He says, "Thanks a lot." And then I see on his Instagram he's eating a dosa at us PTR. So I realized, oh, okay, he's in Bangalore now. Otherwise, he's in Delhi most of the time. So then I said, hey, can I meet you sometime? And he said, okay, sure. I went up to him, I spoke to him, and then I said, hey, I know this really huge podcaster. He's in the UK, and I think you have an amazing story. Would you be interested in being interviewed by him? And he obviously said yes, because who wouldn't want to be interviewed by a huge podcaster? And he said, sure, okay. And then I made the connection and he was on. And once he was on it, I then asked him for something, and he was very happy to give it. In fact, he was so happy that at a speech he gave, I think at Rice College, he actually mentioned this whole thing that happened. Like he said, there's this kid, Ashley Saldanha. He reached out to me like this. He explained that whole thing. And if you want, I can actually add that clip here as we edit it in.
Secondly, in this era, we call this the gig economy. Okay. So I got connected to this kid from Bangalore called Ashley Saldanha.
He actually mentioned that whole thing, and a person who was on the webinar, he reached out to me and said, hey Ashley, I'm a huge fan of you. I'm like, oh, why are you a huge fan of me? Like, what have I done? And then he said, no, you were on this Rahul Arvekar, he's the EC. He was on this, he had the speech to give, and he spoke about you. He said Ashley Saldana, and he mentioned all of these other things. And then I was like, okay, can you please give me like the video link? And then I watched, and then I actually saw that. So again, if you know anything about ECs, they're inundated with requests. Their inbox is filled with people asking them for stuff. Okay, so if you can actually, if I could actually ask something and I could do it so effectively that he actually put it out on a platform, I know that's the strategy to do, and that's what I would suggest your audience to do. Like always give something and then ask, because everyone asks. Asking is so easy. Like you have to give something. You have to understand who's he and like what's he about. Okay, he does a podcast. Could I edit for him? I probably could. Okay, he has these, his logo isn't the best, maybe I could improve it. Okay, cool, then you do that. His website's not the best, okay, can you help him out with that? Maybe he just wants someone to run errands. Okay, cool, hit him up and say, hey, I'll run errands if you want me to go to the grocery store and just get you something. I'm there, and I want to ask you for anything you want. I'll help you out. If you do something like that, Ian's gonna say, okay, I have to help this guy out. Like, he's not, at that point he's just gonna be like, okay, now I have to help this guy. And that's what you want to do. You want to keep giving, and don't even ask. The person's gonna ask you, hey man, now I'm gonna have to help you out. How do I help you out? That's the real strategy.
Awesome. You should do a business entrepreneur class or something.
I should, man.
Fabulous, man. Ashley, I really want to wish you all the best. There's a lot of things that I've learned from you. One is, resilience, and just keep at it till you get there.
Yeah.
The thing is, even though you have some impediment, something that's holding you back, just say, screw it, man. I got work to do, and I get beyond that. The third thing that I learned from you, Ashley, is, you had the guts to take on. Even your dad was telling you, go into commerce, get into your chartered accountancy, and you said, give me 3 months, and I'll
It
show
was
you.
my dad and my mom, like everyone was telling me, dude, like, what is this whole business thing? You should do this. Except for my aunt. My aunt actually was like, I think you should give him 1 year to attempt whatever he wants to do. And yeah, but everyone else was only like, no, you should do this.
Reaches to your aunt.
Yeah. Her name is Annette. So yeah,
And we
put
need
up a
somebody
picture
like
here.
that to, back us up.
You 100%. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. So I'm looking for the next big thing with Ashley, and I'm sure, your mind like yours doesn't stop working. So
It doesn't, man. I
let's
keep
let's
putting
see
in the
where we
work.
can catch up again,
Yeah, probably
Ashley.
next year, sometime halfway through the year or towards the end of the year. I'd
Let's catch
love
up.
to. I'd love to speak about whatever,
But
man.
thanks for agreeing to come on to Mind
Oh,
Talks.
sure,
I'm
Ian. Sure,
sure
sure.
the way you have shared information today, a lot of people's minds are going to be ticking over time.
That's awesome. Or anyone wants to approach me, you guys can hit me up on Instagram. It's or Ashley SLD, ASHLEYSLD. You can just hit me up there. If you want any help, I'm not gonna ask you for any money or anything. I'm just gonna help you out. If you guys are down. Yeah,
That's the spirit. That's the spirit, and we need more of you in this country. And
for
more
sure, man.
successful people will come out of such talks.
Thanks,
So
buddy.
thank you for being on Mind Talks, Ashley. And
Thanks so much for having me, Ian.
your
This has
mind
been
really
awesome.
talks when it talks to me. So I
Thanks, man.
appreciate you for that.
Thanks a lot, buddy. This is awesome.
All the
Thanks,
best.
Ian. Thanks a lot, man.